Nice to see Uncle Rafe here today. Okay, well, I'm an artist. I spent a lot of my time dealing with perspective, visual perspective, hearing perspective, touching perspective, and I'd like to give you a bit of my perspective of what I've been seeing over the past few years. But first, I'd like to start with the perspective of this. This is a late item, one of the famous late items that always appear in city council meetings. And this one's entitled Limitations on Public Hearing Speakers. This was brought forward by our council. There's perspective. So, time is of the essence. How did this phrase, this legal statement, come to be a part of the proposal plan? It seems to me that it was right at the time that this statement, time is of the essence, was introduced, that corners began to be chipped away on Land 48, and the pace became so frantic that things began to fall off the back of the truck. Why was this phrase introduced into the planning of Southwest Mission? Who requested this plan to be added to the planning process? Why would the district enter into an agreement that opposes artificial timelines that only serve to put pressure on the staff, GenStar, and the ministries to rush through a process as though it were just another housing development? Although the Ministries of Environment and the Department of Fisheries were asked to provide comment on the planning process, the timeline took precedent over their reports. They were unable to respond in a timely fashion. Our environment manager, Mr. Uni, used to work for MOE. He knows their ability to respond in the time allotted is unrealistic. As well, the lead planner, Mr. Lister, who most likely had dealings with MOE and DFO in the past, he too should have known that enforcing artificial timelines on MOE and DFO was unrealistic. So as a result, decisions have and are being made without the input of DFO and MOE. Imagine how it must feel. You're a worker for DFO. You've been spending many hours poring over reports, looking over information, and constructing a report for the district, only to find out the decision's already been made without the aid of your report because the district couldn't wait because they had their timeline. It makes you think that you don't want input from DFO or MOE. Why is that? Is it because you want to know about potential problems that may arise, like, say, putting a road over a stream? Or perhaps it's because there's no recovery plan for the area, like what's going to happen to the wildlife once we build all these houses on the hill, let alone what's going to happen to our water. So far, this plan seems to be, let's build the houses and see what survives. Our own mayor, Mr. Atebe, sent a letter to the Ministry of Environment, Mr. Penner, criticizing the slow turnaround time of the reports. I believe this is what is referred to as political interference. Why would the district wish to proceed without the input and cooperation of DFO and MOE, the ministries that are there to look out for the public's interest? Whose interest is the district concerned for? At a meeting just recently, late August, I believe it was, CAUS met with the district environmental manager and the lead planner, who, by the way, receives his money indirectly from GenStar. Our environmental manager, Mr. Uni, kept referring to the neighborhood plan as having met all the statutory obligations, and then it was all legal. Not exactly the stance you would expect from someone whose position is environmental manager. Needless to say, we, the people of Southwest Mission, were promised a hell of a lot more than legal ass covering.
I'll warn you, I'll catch you if you start using that kind of language.
I'm sorry, Your Worship.
It's a part of the body.
Real loosely. I am a person who speaks from the heart, and the words that come out are the words that I learned from my father, and if you don't like them, well, I will try to tone them down, but ass is a horse or a mule, you know, so...
Thank you for toning
So, okay, anyway, I don't really want to talk to you people, because, I mean, I really don't want to talk to you. So, keeping along the lines of time being of the essence, MPAC was originally supposed to be once a month. This was quickly changed to every 2 weeks, which quickly became every week. Clearly, if the timeline was to be met, the pace would have to be picked up. People were given massive amounts of information to deal with, and on many occasions the material was handed out and discussed on the same evening, even though no one had time to read that information. The absurdity of the need for pace was well displayed by Mr. Robertson on the second to last MPAC meeting. He kept pushing to cover more ground, even though it was quite apparent that people were becoming quite tired and frustrated by the pace. Mr. Robinson is supposed to be a disinterested party in these proceedings, yet his actions displayed a considerable bias. Further to this, on that same evening, when exhaustion finally ended the proceedings, a motion was passed that MPAC would finish at the next meeting, even if they had to stay till 2 in the morning. Why was it so important to keep this going at such a breakneck speed? An extra week would not have killed you. Well, one thing's for sure, was the desire to see this plan at public hearing stage well before the election, because as we know, there is no desire by the incumbents to make this an election issue. Yet here we are on the eve of an election less than a month away, and this council seems determined to push this process through before the next election. I would even go so far as to say that when asked about the plan, the incumbents will use the usual response, and that is, we can't talk about it. It's a public hearing. How convenient. Not one of you ran in the past election on a platform of spearheading this project to the zoning stage. Yet here we are. Not too surprising when you consider Heather Stewart's usual response to voting on this issue was, let's keep moving forward. Sometimes, Heather, you need to stop and look back to make sure you haven't left something behind, but I know you're still learning. At the past public hearing, Jenny Stevens essentially declared war on Genstar and voted no because, as she put it, in her view, the people interested in Southwest Mission were only interested in cashing in and getting out of Mission.
Excuse me, may I respond to that? Perfectly right, I was...
I'm not going to take time off of my speech so you can talk.
Hold the clock, but I have a right to respond to that. I said exactly that. And I said so when I voted against the original OCP plan, which I said I did not like that plan, and I did not like that.
Well, that's good, because my next point was what's changed. So there we go. Now I know what's changed.
Even if we can restrain, let him have his time.
I'm sorry.
I'd also like to know what happened to "Raw over my dead body," Jenny. A powerful statement at the time, but seemingly meaningless now that we have a plan in front of us that is totally reliant on RAR. For those of you out there who do not know what RAR is, essentially the developer gets to hire a biologist to set the stream setbacks for their project. In the case of Southwest Mission, our setbacks have gone from 30 meters to 10 meters in most cases. At a recent council meeting, council voted to go ahead with gravel extraction and processing at Shaw Pit, even though the community didn't support the idea. Jenny made the statement in reference to the plan's idea to eventually convert the exhausted pit into a park. That Jenny, says she can't vote for this because she does not know what will be needed in the next 10 years. So how do you reconcile this with a 20-year planning project? So here we are, all the time being of the essence yet again. A PDA has been put together by staff and Genstar, not council as has been suggested. And Genstar is already saying it's not going to work for them. Clearly, this process has been one of putting the cart before the horse time and time again. It seems to me the Mission way that we give approval up front and worry about the details later.